Last week I was incredibly lucky to be invited down to the Pokemon Company International offices in London to go hands-on with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. In my short session with the game, I picked up on a few things that we didn't know from recent trailers. Some good, some bad. With that said, here are 5 things we learned playing Pokemon Scarlet and Violet.
Number 1. There are 18 badges. Before the session began, I was given a rundown of a few helpful details to help set the scene for our jumping in point. As many of you will already know, the new games follow 3 different story paths to be completed. Victory Road being the most self-explanatory with 8 gym leaders and 8 badges. We know how it works. However, there's also the Path of Legends, where you battle Titan Pokemon and discover the truth behind Herba Mystica. And of course there's Starfall Street, where you have to help defeat Team Star. Pretty simple, right? But weirdly enough, both Starfall Street and the Path of Legends come with 5 badges to earn, bringing Scarlet and Violet's badge counter to a whopping 18. Number 2. How the camera operates in wild battles. My first steps in the Paldea region are probably similar to those that players will take when the game releases. Starting outside what I assume was a protagonist's home, I ran just a few steps down the path to discover a surprising amount of Pokemon out in the wild. The team I was given had already been pre-leveled up for the session, so I made quick work of these starter area monsters. But one of the main takeaways instantly from these early battles was how the in-game camera operates during these fights. Completely gone is the ability to walk around the battle like in Legends Arceus, and so too is Sword and Shield's dynamic multiple camera approach. Instead here you have full 360 degree control of your own camera around your own Pokemon. It feels like an evolution of the more classic behind the Pokemon setup of old, and having the ability to move the camera around does offer a new dimension to these in-world fights. Considering that battles do take place in the fully open world, maybe this was done for technical reasons, but losing the multi-camera approach from last generation's battles feels like a sense of dynamism is absent from these fights. Although I will say it was nice to see other wild Pokemon still wandering around in the background during these fights. Number 3. KORAIDON and MIRAIDON are OP when it comes to traversal. One of the first things I did in my playthrough was climb a ladder up the inside of what seemed to be a lookout tower, and just glide off the top of it. Gliding down on my KORAIDON, I found myself landing in the middle of a small village on the outskirts of Paldea's largest city, Mesagoza. It was here I realised how incredibly powerful both KORAIDON and MIRAIDON are for traversal in this world. This is a Pokemon region with a surprising amount of verticality, which means traversing to out-of-the-way areas feels enjoyable. Where in Legends Arceus the player had to switch Pokemon to take advantage of their traversal skills, here MIRAIDON and KORAIDON can simply just do it all out of the bag, really letting you focus on progressing freely without barriers. I did find a really strange side effect of this when climbing the exterior walls of Mesagoza. I had wrongly assumed that, like the smaller village on the outskirts, the city would be a part of the main world, so I could just wander in barrier free. Instead, as I clambered up the side of the stone wall on my trusty KORAIDON and reached the top, the game faded to black and faded back in with my player stood inside the city walls, as if she had just entered through the large gates behind me. It's not a killer that this city is pretty much just one big interior and needs to transition. Open world games have been doing this for years, but for that moment, it really broke the illusion of the open world. Number 4. A lot of shops are just menus. One aspect that really did disappoint me was something I had strangely predicted when the petrol station style Pokemon centres were first shown. A lot of buildings can either just not be entered or, in the case of some shops, are just doorways to menus. In Mesagoza I stepped into multiple clothes and food stores only to be greeted by a menu of what was available to buy, with no actual traversable interior. But after years of walking into almost any building in the Pokemon games for a cheeky gander, not being able to enter most homes or having stores replaced with menus starts to chip away the layers of immersion in the world. The only store I personally found in my session with an interior was the hair salon. Number 5. Potential performance issues. With the caveat given that this was still a work in progress build, there were several times where the game started dropping frames, especially when moving fast on the back of KORAIDON while riding past large groups of wild Pokemon and NPCs. And this wasn't a rare thing, performance stuttered quite a lot. Admittedly, we had already seen this in the trailers with the windmill and some Flora running animations, but those issues definitely bled into the build that I played. In the small town outside of Mesagoza, there was an NPC walking down the street, not very far away from me, and he was walking with very few frames. We've seen issues like this in plenty of games over the years. Look at Halo 5, but this NPC and others with the same issue were surprisingly close to my player. Fingers crossed these aspects are solved in the final build. The hour and a half of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet I played felt rough around the edges in more than a few ways, but at the end of the day, and every day since then, I have desperately wanted to dive back in and continue my Paldean journey. I hope many of the performance issues are resolved for the final release, because I can see those overshadowing what felt like another fresh and upgraded take on the Pokemon formula.